Hello coders, good afternoon. It is episode 102, and it is Thursday the 20th of May 2021. I hope everybody is having a great week. This is live as it is every Thursday, so if you've got any comments, questions, queries or suggestions, do let me know. Put them down in the comments and on the chatty live chat thing, whatever they call it these days, the live chat. And I'll get to them throughout the show. So today we're talking about Docker, and we're talking about Nagware. This might turn into a bit of a rant. And I want to talk about some of the changes in, a particular change in Docker version 3 plus. And I've got some concerns, some opinions, some thoughts on those kind of things. But before I do, let's just quickly talk about what I've been getting up to in the last few weeks, because as you've probably realized or probably seen, I have been doing a lot of live streaming on YouTube. And the reason is that I have had a lot of downtime recently. I've had a lot of downtime in terms of like workload, and I've been using that time to work on the How to Code Well platform, but at the same time also learn some new tricks, some new things. And I've been doing that live on YouTube. I think I've got about 6 live streams that are unlisted. If you are a detective, you could find out the links, I suppose. They're on Discord. And what I think I'm going to do is sort of push them public over the coming weeks, I reckon. Some of them are like 2 hours long. Some of them are like 3.5 hours long. I've done a lot of live streaming recently. So I just want to go through some of the things that I've learned first, and then we'll dive into the Docker takes. So I've been playing around with Kubernetes. This is something that I haven't really used out in the wild before, but I've been playing around with Kubernetes because I've wanted to learn BlueGreen deployments and how to do that. And essentially, you have like a load balancer that you push traffic to, whilst you have a blue or set of service clusters, if you will, set of containers that are not active, and then you can push to those and then switch the traffic in. I'll probably do a couple of videos on BlueGreen deployments because I've kind of like just skirted over that. It's a way of basically doing a deployments where you've got zero downtime. You push to the blue servers or the green servers, and one of those is active and one of those isn't active. And you can use the inactive one to test, and then once you're ready, you switch over the traffic. And in the world of Kubernetes, you obviously have you can have lots and lots of different containers, and those different containers will be either blue or will be green. But anyway, I've also learned some MiniCube as well. So this is using Kubernetes locally on a local cluster using MiniCube. They have a lovely dashboard there, and obviously, when I've been learning Kubernetes, I've also been learning pods, services, deployments, and customizations and all of that jazz. It's been very interesting, a lot of challenges getting my head around how the Kubernetes is configured. And I've also updated some of my internal systems to run Xdebug version 3. There's lots of little improvements there, so a lot of tweaking of configuration. I've also been working heavily on our Stripe integration, and that has payments and update payment methods and adding customers and so on and so forth, and dealing with mocking out the APIs and stuff. We've also managed to get the test coverage up to about 85%, which is great. You know, I'm starting to test the really tricky stuff now, and also I dived straight into Go yesterday. I wasn't even intending on going into Go, but there was a tool that I was using, and I needed to sort of have a crash course, shall we say, on Go. So I did a bit of that on stream yesterday. And also I started learning the Open API generator as well. That's really good. I was playing with that a lot last night. And I've been also kind of embracing TDD and learning more about the theory behind TDD. And a takeaway that I wouldn't mind sort of talking about quickly is the fact that with TDD, what you're doing is you're creating the test first. And when you create the test first, something that I didn't appreciate when I was started learning TDD, something I didn't appreciate at all, is when you start writing the test first, you obviously start thinking about the setup, how the code is going to be set up, and you'll be trying to do it in the most efficient way possible. Now, I didn't appreciate that, but it's very obvious now when I look back at my code, I can see what I've tested in TDD and what I haven't tested in TDD, because the stuff that I haven't tested in TDD, the stuff that I test after the fact that the code is done, usually requires more setup, more mocking, more configuration work in the test to actually get to the thing that I want to actually boil down to test. And this is interesting because when you write code straight away without testing, you automatically start doing the setup, doing the configuration, building the variables, setting all the objects up, and you forget how those are actually going to be tested. They might make sense in your head as you're going through them, but often or not, those things that you've just done are very awkward to test, and you would be architecting that differently had you have done the test first, because you would be testing the setup. It's a bit of a brain shift, and it's something that I've recently realized. I've been listening to some great podcasts and some great talks on people doing TDD, and some of the things that make it obvious that the code hasn't been done in TDD and stuff. I am still learning TDD, still learning. I'm still on my journey of testing and stuff. But I just thought that would be an interesting thing to mention. Okay, so let's get into the rant. Concerns over Docker. Okay, first of all, let's do our usual. Cheers. Oh, this is... So Thursday night, so I have a beer. So if you use the Docker desktop, so if you're a Windows dev, or if you're a Mac dev, right, like myself, then you're going to be asked from I think it's from version 3.1 or something upwards of the Docker desktop. You're going to be asked you're going to be asked to go and get a pro account or a team account in order for you to skip update notifications. Now, on the face of it, that doesn't actually sound that bad, but I've been thinking about this today. I've obviously had a lot of time to think these past few days, so I've been thinking about this, and it's brought up a couple of concerns, I think. And I wouldn't mind just talking through them. So pro or team subscription developers can skip notifications for a particular update when a reminder appears. Now, looking into it, I think a reminder would appear every 2 weeks. So I think what happens is that when you are reminded of an update, you can snooze that update, you can cancel that update, so you can say, I don't want to be reminded of this, and then every 2 weeks it will come back. I think that's what I've read correctly. Free users will not be required to install any particular update, so that's important. So it's not preventing you from doing an update, but they will continue to get reminders to update. Now, I've been using Docker for a very long time. I love Docker. I love it. I love it to bits. It's changed my way I develop. It really has. It's had a positive impact to how I code, right? It's been great. And I must say that most of the projects these days that I do is in Docker, right? So it's kind of something I do day in and day out. And I don't have a pro account because, well, I don't have a pro account because I've never needed a pro account. And whenever Docker has had its updates, it's usually been this thing that happens in the in sort of, I guess you would call it the toolbar at the top of the desktop of your computer, and it sort of shows a little red exclamation mark. And that to me is a very non-intrusive way of saying, hang on a minute, there is a notification here. That means that you need to perhaps do a software update. But it's not in your face. It's not like, it's not something that you have to do in order to continue using Docker or to continue your development flow. Can you see where this talk is going to go? So roughly about every 2 weeks, after an update is available, they'll start reminding you about it once a day. Okay, so really on the face of it, it's not that much of a big deal. However, as software engineers, we build and launch new applications on a regular basis. Okay, that's what we do. We build software and launch software on a regular basis. Sometimes we do daily, hourly deployments or weekly deployments. With each new deployment, there is a new version, and the new version is called the bleeding edge. Right, that is the latest and greatest. That is that is the new toy that we have just released out into the wild. The need to release new software can be boiled down into 3 categories. So the first one is that there is security patches. Okay, so firstly, there is security patches that need to be rolled out due to known exploits. This is just some notes that I wrote down. With each deployment, there is a new version. So first of all, there's security patches. And then there is a common need to improve the system. All right, so this could be a business requirement, or it could be a requirement or a demand from the consumers that you've picked up on, and therefore you are building out this new feature. And lastly, there are bug fixes, which are separate from security fixes, because security fixes a security risk, whereas a bug fix would obviously be fixing something that is broken. Lastly, there are bug fixes that need to be applied to make the application more stable or address a known issue. Okay. Even though we release software regularly, the tools that we use to build our applications are not always using their latest versions. Now, an example there is that I have many Macs here in my office and just about. None of them are on Big Sur. And why? That is because I know that there are some issues with Big Sur and what I do, and I don't want to have that pain of upgrading my bits and pieces and then trying workarounds or pulling my hair out. I basically want, when I develop code, I want to have zero friction when I'm actually building that thing. I don't want the tools to get in the way of the thing that I'm building, essentially. So one of my biggest pain points when writing software happens when the tools that I use get in the way of the code. This can happen when the current development flow is interrupted. When I mean development flow, I mean actually sitting down, getting up, starting your day, and then just writing code and cutting code and going from nothing to deploying something. If the tools that I use throughout that duration get in the way of the thing that I'm doing, then that is friction, in my opinion. That's why I'm not a massive tool guy. That's why, if I find something that works for me, I'm just going to use it, and I'm going to ignore any kind of new kid on the block. If I find something that is really, really useful, I will gravitate to that. And if I find something that is slowly becoming more of an annoyance, I will drop it and go somewhere else. Something that is has a little less friction, right? Okay, so this can happen when a current development flow is interrupted. Some examples could be due to forced system restarts. All right, we've all been there. I mean, imagine. I mean, one of the biggest things. I mean, I don't know how much time I've saved from not being a Windows guy. Like, I can't imagine starting up my laptop and having to wait for updates that I wasn't even aware of to come through. You know, I don't understand how people can cope with that. You know, I will turn my laptop on and I will work. I will not turn my laptop on and then be told when to work. Do you know what I mean? That's one of the frustrations that I used to have when I was working on Windows. Anyway, okay, so a forced system restart. When an unwanted notification requires unneeded attention, so when a notification makes something bigger than what it is, and it takes me, I end up having to read something, maybe some small print, and then try and decipher what the options are, and then, just shrug it off and go, oh. I mean, I am, whenever something comes up and says there is a system update, I always do remind me tomorrow, and then I'll keep doing that until the weekend. And then I'll do the update over the weekend, knowing that if something goes bang, I've got the Sunday to deal with it. I don't do any updates during my working day, just for fear that it's going to screw up my workflow. So there's also when a configuration issue is not obvious. So when I'm trying to do something that I know should be fairly straightforward, but there's a configuration in the tool that I just overlooked, and it's not obvious that I need to change it in order to get it to work. All of these are friction pain points, or when the documentation is inconsistent or lacking in vital detail. Again, very painful points here. Okay, so Docker has become the most used tool for me. I use Docker all of the time. I think the only other tool that I use more is obviously PHP, right? But Docker is something that I use all of the time, and I've got used to it, and I love it. It's amazing. It's changed the way I work, the way I develop. And I mean, most of the projects that I've got run Docker, Docker has, as I said, changed the way I develop. It is one of the biggest changes that I've ever had in my workflow, I think, to actually do things in containerization. But Docker has not been easy. In the early days, when I started using Docker, it was in like version 1, something or other. And it was very unstable, and it often crashed. Sometimes it just didn't work. And also, a lot of the features that you get now just didn't exist back then. So I've only used it on Mac and Linux, so I can't say what it's like on Windows. But I do hear that there are some issues with Windows version of the Docker desktop with some releases. And during a project, I will try and avoid, as I mentioned, updating Docker and updating other things, just for fear that what I update is going to have a negative impact on the project that I'm working on. So I try to avoid updating my tools as much as I possibly can do. I mean, yeah, some PHP Storm IDE plugins I'll update, or if something requires an update and I've done it often and I've known that it's stable and there is an easy rollback option, then that's fine. But because Docker has had such a patchy past, because I've used it from the early days, I haven't just used it when it suddenly becomes stable. I've known the pain that of just wasting days back in the early days of just not being able to get things to run. So I try and avoid it. I try and avoid it because Docker is such a an important integral tool in my workflow that if it was to not work, that would be very painful for me. I would have to look at alternatives quickly in order to get something back to a normal, stable thing. So it all it kind of costs. It's a cost. Updating is a cost. It's a risk. So like I said, I've never updated to Big Sur, and I probably won't for a while until things start. I become more confident in that, and when I got this, when I saw this thing that Docker were doing, I was a bit taken aback by it, to be fair. They have updated their messaging, which is great, because before it was just a closed thing, and it wasn't obvious that you could just snooze this information and leave it for 2 weeks. I mean, that's a good win. I'm glad they've done that. And I should stress that the updates are not forced upon you. By not having a pro account or a team account or whatever they call it, you're still eligible for these updates. But in order for you to dismiss the notification, you have to be a pro user or have a team org. So on the face of it, like I said, it's not that big of a deal. All right, all you have to do is just snooze the notification. The trouble is that this adds an extra level of pain. I mean, it's quite an insignificant thing, but over time, I can see it getting the backs of developers up. And the way they've gone about it is very weird, in my opinion, because obviously they're trying to make money. And I mean, we'll get into that in a minute as to why that's a bit strange. But the way they've gone about it, it's almost like a spam message every two weeks. They know full well that a lifespan of a project is longer than 2 weeks, and to have that form of notification, they could just roll out a random update that doesn't have anything in it, or hardly anything in it. They could do smaller updates to just keep reminding people to then update to purchase their product, which in my opinion is a very weird way of marketing your application. Yeah. Very strange. So I prefer it when my tooling gets out of the way and lets me do what I need to do. It shouldn't give me any kind of friction. And I think that this is a bit of a bad move, because I think it's going to scare a couple of devs into thinking, into thinking that either this is a money grab, so, a money grab from a company who they may have an opinion on already, which could be negative, or an opinion on, they could have a false sense that this company is huge and has lots and lots of money, so this is just greed. That could be one negative implication of this. The other one is scaring devs in the other direction. So scaring devs in the sense of a developer will see this and go, oh, they are really desperate for money. This is worrying because I rely on Docker a lot. So I don't think this is a smart move. The thing is, though, the thing that I always think about when I was thinking about doing this, I kept going back to this point. If they had done this right at the start, I don't think it would be such a big deal, because people would have been used to this notification. Can you remember, was it Winrar? And they had that sort of notification, a similar thing where it was like, you can continue using this product for completely free, but you could also purchase a license for it. That would give you the same functionality, I think. Anyway, I don't actually know anyone who's purchased the Winrar license, but I would imagine there has been a few. But that was something that you were just used to. It was just something that you would like, oh, okay, I just, cancel that and continue on using it. So if had they have done this right at the start, I think that it wouldn't be such a big deal. But the fact of the matter is that you're going to have to restart your laptop at some point, and you're going to get this notification, and you're going to be told that because you don't have a paid account, you cannot, you can't snooze or it just seems very, very weird. It's just very, very weird. You can't skip this thing. And this also means that a free user has to go from one version to the next version to the next version to the next version, which I think is going to generate some fragmentation, I think, because I will be less inclined now to install to upgrade until there is a major version change, because just in case the minor versions or the versions in between have bugs, I want to try and limit that. I don't know. I've never tried to do a rollback using the Docker desktop. I don't know how you would go about doing that. I would imagine there is a way, but I think that Docker has now made a case for more developers to not upgrade and just dismiss it because they know that because they know that they can't skip. Because they can't skip. So with a paid account, you would be able to skip and say, look, I don't want this, and my project doesn't support this, so I'm not going to go for it. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll just have to see how it goes. I might be blowing this out of proportion, completely out of the water here. I could be, but I don't know. It just feels weird. It smells weird. It just... I don't have the answer. Surely if they wanted to generate revenue, there's other ways to do it, but I cannot put my finger on what ways they would be. But this just seems a bit weird. There is another point as well, is the fact that this is Docker desktop. So Linux users won't be affected to this. So one could argue that there is a class thing going on here. You're on a Windows machine. Oh, you're on a Mac. Oh, okay, we'll charge you then. We'll charge you for the skipping. Or you're on a Linux machine, so you obviously know what you're doing then. Okay, right, so that's fine. Do you know what I mean? It's very weird, very, very strange, and it kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies when I read it. I've updated to 3, which means that I'm going to have to get these, skip these notifications. And it might be just that. It might just be that we skip and have done. Snooze these notifications, and have done. But it also means that if there was something that was a security risk, then I would not be aware of it until that notification comes back. There is that as well. I don't know. I'll be interested to know what you think of this. Am I blowing this out of proportion? Is Docker doing something wrong? Is this perfectly fine and acceptable? I mean, it just feels weird to me. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching on the YouTubes, listening on the podcasts. Happy coding, everybody, and I'll see you everybody on Twitch on Sunday at 14:30 GMT. Take care. Happy coding. See you again. Cheers. Bye-bye.